Hello and welcome back to the Talking Walls podcast. I'm your host, Matt Cooper. And today I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the main man himself, Dave Azzopardi. Dave, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you, mate. All good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. This is probably about the fourth time we've tried to record this today. We've changed to a new provider. It's a little bit cheaper than the one before, and we definitely feels that way. Yeah, we've had numerous technical difficulties, different studios. Yeah, it's not been great. It's been pretty ugly. Talking of ugly, Joe Parker, Concept Scouting. How you doing, mate?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, it's the fourth time I'm answering that question, so yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Should we? I tell you what, like, how does it feel now? We've won a game. Does it feel any different?
It feels a lot different. It feels about the same as the first three times. I think a big part of it is when you play as badly as you do in the first half and you play a little bit better, change the style up a little bit in the second half, I think you can come out of the game feeling a little bit better. I'm not quite on board with the negativity that I'm hearing everywhere else, but that being said, the first half was shocking.
Yeah. I mean, we'll be joined by Jord at some point during the podcast. He will be joining. I'm not sure when, hopefully soon. But I didn't manage to get to the game. I'd already had plans with the missus, which was obviously extremely nice. Really enjoyed it. I did say, look, I'm meant to be going to the game, so obviously we compromised and I didn't go to the game. As most of you will know, sometimes it's just the easiest way of doing things. But yeah, Dave, let's just jump straight into that game. First win. I put a tweet out at half time just to try and gauge where we were at, because I could see a few tweets saying we were playing poorly. I just said, how are we getting on? I think I had about 45 replies, and most of them were saying sack him.
Yeah, the first half was gash, man. Like I think was it under Lambert when we beat Rotherham 1-0 and we got booed off. It was giving those vibes. Yeah, it was awful. We got the early goal, which was I didn't realise till today, our fastest Premier League goal, which is obviously nice, and it was Sod's law. It was Pablo Sarabia, who got a lot of stick last week. To be fair, when the team came out, and I had a little inkling that after the pre-match presser, the way that Gary was almost praising him as such, I felt he was going to start again. And fair play, we got the goal, great composure, took it well, right place, right time, great pass from Cunha. But the rest of the first was really, really poor. Again, it was similar to Palace, where Southampton just kept having spells where they're putting a lot of pressure on and it kept building up. And obviously they had the goal disallowed, which we'll talk about. And Wolves didn't offer anything else, to be honest. So first half was definitely frustrating. Southampton could have and maybe should have been level at half time. I think that would have been really interesting to see how we approach the second half if that was the case. But, ultimately, fair play to Gary, because he obviously changed something in the second half and it worked to help us to help us get all 3 points.
Yeah, there was a bit of a rick in the lineup, Joe. Sam Johnson was meant to be out of the squad. They had Dan Bentley on the graphic and on the actual team sheet, because I know journalists reported on it, but they made a mistake and Sam Johnson was actually on the bench. What does that say about who's number one, Joe? Because O'Neill made a few comments a few weeks ago now about it being an easy decision, no headache involved, and we were all thinking, or most of us are thinking, he means Sam Johnson. Do you still think that's the case, or do you think he meant Jose Sarr? Or it's so strange, isn't it? He's spent £10 million on this player, and I know he's been injured, but doesn't seem to now be the number one.
I think in a weird way, it makes more sense if Sam Johnson's come in to be a rival to Sarr, but as a firm number two, because it made no sense to bring Johnson in as a kind of number one ahead of Sarr, because he's not markedly better than him at anything, if anything. So I think if he's coming in to be a support to Sarr and a challenge to him, maybe an option for next season when Sarr inevitably leaves, that kind of makes more sense. I know we discussed that in the transfer pod, didn't we? Maybe that would have been a feasible route, but there's absolutely no doubt, just based on now the fact that Sam Johnson's fit. He's been fit at least for that game, if not beforehand, and Sarr's still starting games. And to be fair, he didn't have a lot to do. He sat there. I think you could have put Tom King in goal and it wouldn't really matter.
Yeah. You say that though, Sam Johnson, it'll be by the time next season starts, he'll be 32. So, is he happy to play almost like that backup role or supporting act in the hope that Sarr does leave?
Well, how many years did he spend at Albion? Like a year at Albion's like dog years, isn't it?
It's true. It's about 74 actually.
Yeah. So I don't think we'll see Johnston in the team this side of Christmas now. So I think this run of games, you can't be tinkering with your goalkeeper. If you're gonna, don't get me wrong, O'Neill probably will. But you've seen teams in the past, haven't you, rotating keepers in like Europe and things like that. Never really works out, does it? So it's a bit of a strange one, really. But as being biased as a fan of Jose Sarr, I'm glad that he's starting for us.
It seems such a waste of money, though, Dave, doesn't it? Considering we were crying out for other positions. I think that the blame has to be led at whoever sanctioned the signing, whether that be O'Neill or Hobbs. Really, I think we all said what are they doing, and sometimes we get it wrong, but I think for now it just looks like a terrible piece of business.
Yeah, I don't think Johnston's awful, but don't get me wrong. But he's not a massive upgrade on Jose Sarr, which I think we've all seen already. So ultimately, it feels like £10 million wasted because both of them are still here. And like Joe said, fair enough, competing for a number one spot. But with us being in the sort of position that we are in terms of league position and financially, we really don't have the luxury to be spending 10 million quid on what is at the moment a number 2 goalkeeper. If Sarr had a move lined up, say for argument's sake, after the deadline he went to Saudi, then fair enough because Wolves have been quite proactive, brought in his replacement and then moved Sarr on. But the fact that they're both still here is strange. And the fact that Sarr is number 1 is probably telling that a move for January probably isn't imminent either. So strange China. But like Joe said, I think at the moment with the position we're in, you need a bit of consistency in the lineup, and that's probably what we're going to see with Sarr now. But interestingly now, I think all our fixtures for the rest of the year are actually against teams currently in the bottom half. Okay, that includes Manchester United and Spurs, but between now and the end of the year, we've got a really good chance of kicking on. There are some tough games in there. Fulham next is a tough game, but fixtures are looking good, and I don't think you can be in a position at the moment where you start still experimenting. I think Saturday, although it wasn't a vintage performance, I think we're slowly starting to see what Gary O'Neill thinks is his best 11. So I wouldn't be surprised to see no changes and an unchanged squad for the next game, as long as everyone's fit after the internationals.
Yeah, I've just had a look at the table, Dave, and I thought Spurs were like 5th or 6th, but they're actually 10th, aren't they? I feel like he's like always like one game away from getting the sack.
I saw his. This is Ange going off a bit off topic. Ange's post-match interview. He's a miserable bastard, to be fair, and you could tell that he was just giving the woman no eye contact, nothing. So I like him. I think he was actually apparently approached by Wolves, or they looked at him after Bruno Lage, but he was doing quite well with Celtic at the time. I would have liked him there, but I don't know. He's starting to lose. He's quite stubborn in how he plays, isn't he? So I don't know. But there's a lot of pressure on Spurs,
mate.
That's a shock yesterday. That's a real shocking result. Like whenever we've gone there and beat them, it's a surprise. But that's got to be up there, kind of top 5, top 10 surprise results in a long time, surely.
I think I'm surprised it's Ipswich. I know obviously they were winless as well, but I don't know. I just felt like they've given even City. I know City battered them in the end, but they give City a bit of a scare like early doors. So I think if they, they got the quality, to be fair. So I don't know. I think we might still be involved in the sort of relegation battle as such, but I think they'll give it a good go. To be fair, I think they were, everyone's favourites to go down, but I think they'll give it a good go. To be fair, in regards to staying up.
Anyway, looping back round to the game on Saturday. What was it about the first half that was so bad? Obviously, we scored quite early. Do you think potentially that was one of the reasons why he stunk the place out?
It's really passive, wasn't it? That was what I was. I think if you compare it to the second half, you could noticeably tell in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the second half, the likes of Lamina, Cunha, Strand Larson are like literally stood around the Southampton box. Whereas as soon as we scored the goal in the first half, it was just like, right, lads, let's get to half time then. That was what it struck me as. I don't know what you think, Dave.
Yeah, there's no urgency, was there, first half? Just really slow in terms of trying to get the ball up the field. There was one instance on the left-hand side, and it's funny because some people have blamed O'Neill for it and some people have blamed Aït-Nouri for it, where we pass it around the back and Aït-Nouri's just got basically a free channel to run down the wing, and he almost stops and then doesn't know what to do. And I think he tries to play a pass and it's misplaced and ends up going out. But Gary O'Neill stood right next to him, and then Gary O'Neill saying something to him. So I've seen some people on Twitter were saying basically Gary O'Neill told him not to run. And then other people were saying that Gary O'Neill was telling him to run. So I don't think you'll ever know. But thankfully, the second half changed a lot. But you're right, first half was really passive. And a little bit like the Palace game at times, just struggled to get the forward players involved. There was one instance as well, which I doubt it would be shown on the highlights, where we broke through on goal. And it was Strand Larson on his own with about three defenders around him. Lamina overlapping. And then Strand Larson passes it into where Lamina should be, but Lamina stopped running about 5 seconds before, so it just passed into absolutely no one. So It was just frustrating, and I'm sure he obviously shoved the rocket up their backsides at half time because it seemed to be a much better second half performance, to be honest.
To be fair though, on the last podcast we were talking about pragmatism and just doing what you can to win a game, and then once you're safe, that's when you want to start experimenting a bit. Joe, do you think there was just an element of that and just kind of risk averse, especially when you go 1-0 up so early?
For me, and I'm his biggest critic, I can kind of forgive wanting to protect the result in a way. I do get why he's done it. While I don't necessarily support it or agree with it, I can see why he did it. So it's, albeit then to come out the second half and then want to high press. I assume he's seen, Ramsdale's not got his boots on today. And in fairness, that's what created the goal. It created numerous other opportunities off the back of it. So, me personally, I'm quick enough to slag him off when tactically he's done what is clearly what I would personally not have done. But that for me was a good decision. Second half, the funny thing is the observation that people make a lot of Sarabia being lazy and not pressing. I don't buy that personally. For me, if anything, he's running around with absolutely no aim whatsoever. He's running around too much with no real direction, and I think that kind of plays into he's took him off at half time and he wants to high press in the second half. He's brought Bellegarde on and Bellegarde did well. But I think either of those guys could have done that job second half. I assume he's either knackered or not fully fit or something like that.
Took a little knock, I think, in the first half.
Yeah, I was watching the game on my phone. And it was in and out of the stream, and he looked like he'd pulled up, and he was receiving
5 or 10 minutes
so.
after his goal. I think he pulled up. I think.
Yeah, I think he gets a lot of stick quicker than most of the people. Even in the South Bank, there's people around me kind of say, "Oh, what are you doing, Sarabia? What are you doing?" Whereas that's just the kind of player he is. But I think then when we change it up second half and we look better, naturally that's just the easy option to say, "Oh, okay, let's start Bellegarde next week," and that's what or the week after that'll be the approach now. We look better with Bellegarde on the pitch, therefore he must start, whereas I think it runs deeper than that.
Yeah, obviously some players do get a bit more stick than others. Even last season, though, the turning point was, I'm not saying it was because of him, but when Sarabia was given a chance and trusted, our fortune seems to turn around a little bit. So perhaps he's the man to take us forward. But I want to talk about the disallowed goal. We'll come on to, obviously Cunha assisted for the goal. We'll come on to his overall performance and Gary O'Neill's comments a bit later. The disallowed goal. So the ball's deflected, and Semedo is said to be fouled in the area, and the Southampton player smashes it top bins. Now, I've watched it back a few times. I still think it's a foul. I think Semedo gets there first. He protects the ball, which you should do as a defender. And the challenge is coming in, so you're almost inviting it. I think it's a foul. I don't think the goal should stand personally. I think it's a clear foul as well. So I don't know how you two feel about it.
Yeah. I obviously Joe is right in front of us in the South Bank. I thought at the time it was a foul. I was really surprised that the referee hadn't given it. I don't know if there's... And I don't know if it's just because of the last two referees that we've had, but was it referee
Anthony Taylor?
Yeah, Taylor last week, and then this week, I can't think of his name, Thomas someone, isn't it? But in terms of, I don't know if they've been sort of told, right, try and let the games flow, and if you make a horror, we'll use VAR, to do it. It's because there was a couple of times when we saw it with the second goal where little 50-50s he wasn't giving. He was letting the game try and flow, and Anthony Taylor did it last week. To a degree, I liked it. This week, obviously, it almost cost us, but I felt it was a foul at the time. I couldn't believe he didn't give it on field, to be honest. And I know it's caused a lot of controversy. If I'm honest, I've not really watched it back, but I felt it at the time that I thought it was a foul, and I felt VAR made the right decision.
I think part of it was right in front of me and Dave, because where me and Dave sit in the South Bank, it's pretty much right in front of us. And I said to Ida, who stood next to me, as soon before Manning had even put the ball in, I said that's a foul. And to be honest with you, and it sounds a bit like kind of sour grapes, like the opposite way in a way, because of how much we whinge about VAR. But don't get me wrong, if I was a Southampton fan, I'd be claiming it, of course I would. But before the ball had fell to Ryan Manning, most people said it's a foul, because the camera angles haven't really done it justice. I don't think it helps when Shearer and Micah Richards and Gary Lineker on Match of the Day, along with that decision, are slagging that off, and the two fouls in the build-up to the second goal. But before he's even put it in the net, we said it was a foul. He's come round the back, kind of round the side of Semedo, and cleared him out, which you could say is probably a 50-50. But if you see a picture of Semedo after the goal, he's got blood pissing from his ankle. So, and you could see that he was right in front of us. And I had a feeling as soon as he put the ball in the net, and I'm never confident with VAR, but as soon as he's put the ball in the net, I said, he's going to disallow this. He's not going to give this goal. And lo and behold, you could just see it playing out, because we've been on the other end of it quite a bit. But for me, it's a foul. I don't really see where the argument is. Obviously, when you're scraping at the bottom, something like that can turn a game. I get that. But the fact, I saw one of the Southampton journalists saying they'd been robbed, and it's just like, there's 3 50-50s there. Any of those three decisions could have gone the other way. So I do get why they're frustrated, but just because they all went our way, that doesn't necessarily make them wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I was going to say,
go on.
The issue with it as well, though, is that you mentioned it there. Obviously, Gary Lineker, Michael Richards, Alan Shearer played a hell of a lot higher, level than any of us. Got good football knowledge, but sometimes just because what they've said, everyone in the football sphere will take that as gospel. Then, and that's their opinion. And I think being there in real time and stuff, it's a foul ultimately. And like you said, Joe,
you wait till see Newcastle have a decision like that and see what Shearer thinks.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, and or Leicester or Man City or whoever Michael Richards supports these days. So
I think when I looked at the ref again in between the ball in the net, it was gonna blow, and that's absolutely fine. But they've got VAR there. If he gives a foul before Manning's put the ball in the net, he can't overturn it. So why wouldn't you let him put it away? And that's exactly what it's there.
It's good refereeing, I think. Bramall, that was it. Thomas Bramall, yeah.
I saw an argument. It was like, well, Semedo stopped him from getting to the ball. Well, that's his fucking job. He's a defender. What's he meant to do? Just I can see what I do feel aggrieved, especially with the second one. We'll come on to, but for me, it's a total non-argument. It's a foul. He's gone through the back of him. Semedo's protected the ball, and the referee was right to let the game go on and then bring it back. So for me, and there's probably going to be Southampton fans already furiously typing in the comments. Maybe wait until the end of the podcast when we've discussed the other decision before you give your opinion.
That's only going to get worse.
Yeah. For me, I think that the goal should have been disallowed. But let's move on to the second half, Dave. By all accounts, it seemed to be a bit more of a positive performance.
Yeah, there was a bit more bite. You saw it straight away as soon as we sort of kicked off. Really, there was a bit more bite, a little bit more urgency. Like Joe said earlier, a bit more pressing. And Ramsdale, possession was a key thing that was discussed after the game. I saw George put a tweet out which was swiftly deleted when he realised everyone was telling him to shut up.
What was the tweet?
He put a tweet about, oh my God, as if we've had 29% possession against Southampton. And I think everyone was like, yeah, but we won. So, which I know, like, it's not, when you're at home against a team that are, down at the bottom with you, it's a massive swing. It's a massive difference. But ultimately, they didn't do a hell of a lot with that. They kept the ball at the back. Wolves are happy with that. But Ramsdale, every time we pressed him, there's a couple of times where he gave away the ball. And he came down to the South Bank just after half time with a smile on his face, and I thought, yeah, here we go. Let's wipe that smile off his face, and we did well. Pressing did well, and then obviously Cunha unleashing an absolutely beautiful strike, and I'm sure we'll talk about the goal. I'm very, very shocked that it was given, if I'm honest. When you got two 50-50s leading up to it, you're bound to, think one of them is a foul. But for whatever reason, on Saturday, the footballing gods were with us, and it all fell into place. Because it would have been a shame to disallow a strike as good as that, to be honest.
I watched it back again this morning. For me, the first incident, which is Santiago Bueno, I think the Southampton players was weak.
Yeah.
Is it Archer?
I think it was Archer.
Archer and Dawson. For me, that's a foul. I think Dawson's pulled him over. So the goal shouldn't have been allowed, because it's not like it's a different phase of plays. It's literally a pass and then a shot is shot, and what a goal it is. But for me, yeah, I think it's Dawson.
It's interesting because it probably goes against what we talk about with the first goal, but it's interesting because is it enough to overturn the goal? If you know what I mean, like we've said, they're 50-50s. Is that enough for the VAR to say, yeah, mate, you've got to disallow it? But then at the same time, the first half, Southampton fans are probably arguing, is the Semedo one enough to overturn it?
In terms of more than a foul, then the Semedo one is more of a foul. But
Clear
they are
foul.
both, but they're both still fouls, like regardless.
Yeah.
So they're
What
both
would be
should have been.
interesting, though, what would have been interesting was if we'd have gone up the other end of the pitch and scuffed one in, and I'm not saying that they would have disallowed it, but I do think when someone bangs one in from 30 yards, the bar to disallow something does slightly raise a little bit higher. I think kind of unconsciously. I think both of them are 50-50s. They could have gone either way, as I say. I don't think the Dawson one is definitely a foul, but I also don't think it's definitely not a foul. It's like with a lot of these things, there is a degree of subjectivity to it. If the referee chooses to play on, and this instruction they've obviously got to play on has played into our hands this weekend. I saw in the Chelsea game yesterday, he was letting all sorts of stuff go, which that's what we all want, but the problem is that the issue that everyone has with VAR, and I completely see where Southampton fans are coming from, the issue lies in the fact that after the international break, they'll just revert back to type and go back to what was happening the week before. So if that's a directive, go into all the clubs, tell them that that's the directive, because in that case, Archer thinks he's won a foul there. If the bar's set higher, he probably knows he hasn't. He probably knows he's got to fight a little bit more for the ball, but he shielded the ball, he's gone down, he probably thinks he's got it. But yeah, if I'm a Southampton fan, I'm raging, but at the same time, I don't give a fuck.
That's my sentiment as well. And it's you tend to moan less about it when it goes forward with your team, but we've been on the receiving end of some absolute shaggings from the PGMOL, haven't we, over the last 3 or 4 years? So I think it's only right that we try and provide a bit of balance. And like I said,
there is a corruption against Southampton though.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They don't want Southampton in the league, do they?
I shouldn't say that. There was a lot of Wolves fans that said the same thing, to be fair.
To be honest, I think when the PGMOL have their quarterly reviews through the year, I'd imagine item number one on the agenda is how do we shag Southampton Football Club?
I think so, yeah.
Got to be.
To be fair, we just, because I don't know if we've ever said it on this podcast, but it definitely incompetence. But there's a lot of Wolves fans that have said have mentioned the word corruption before as well.
In fairness, though, and in defence of Southampton fans, a lot of them, what I was reading yesterday, I was interacting with a few of them, which was fun. A lot of them were talking about, no matter what's going on with the VAR decisions, we've not had a shot on goal. So it's irrelevant, really, to a degree, which I think the truth lies somewhere in between, doesn't it?
You could see, in terms of, and it's interesting because, and we might mention in terms of their personalities in a minute, but Russell Martin has obviously got a brand of football that will work at a certain club, maybe at a higher level than Southampton. But ultimately, when you're coming into the Championship with a team and a squad of players that obviously aren't good enough to be playing that style, you've got to be trying something different. And look, 70% possession, yeah, it's great, but like you said, Joe, if you're not having a shot on goal, fucking hell, you're not gonna gain points, are you? So, we took advantage. I think the first goal was really well worked. Second goal, great. Created a number of chances to get a third. Ain't Nori, put two on, not on a plate, but one definitely on a plate with Bellegarde and just out of his stretch. So, could have been more for us, but yeah, they've they've got to book up with their ideas, otherwise I think they're all going down.
That Bellegarde one was a funny one, wasn't it? Because in front at the time, I thought, oh, he's unlucky there not to get on the end of it. Then when I watched it back a match today, he should have put it away.
Is that the one when he's sliding in late?
Yeah, he's like gone under or over his foot. Can't remember it, but I thought he just hadn't reached the ball.
I was because I've got Aït-Nouri in the FPL, and everyone around me is like, I've got Cunha, so everyone was celebrating because he got the goal and assist, or Aït-Nouri. So when it got to 60 minutes, all right, Gary, let's sub him off now. You get the 4 points, and Southampton they didn't really scare us too much, and then when there was another one before where he had crossed it, and Bellegarde, I don't know, I think it was maybe a tad too high and tried to bring it down or head it back across or something like that. So, but yeah, I thought Aït-Nouri, who had quite a poor game against Palace, stepped up a little bit again showed a bit more confidence again on Saturday as well.
Yeah, that second goal's an absolute perler, isn't it? I never think that Cunha strikes a ball cleanly. It doesn't feel like he always seems to hook everything, doesn't he? But I mean, it worked. Ramsdale was nowhere near it, and I think without Cunha, we'd probably already be down. I really do. I mean, you've only got to look at his average rating compared to his peers, and he's like third or fourth in the league, which makes Gary O'Neill's comments a little bit strange. I understand where he's coming from. The comments after the game were not helped by the fact that I can't remember who it was who tweeted it, but he just put a snippet out saying, "Yeah, Cunha needs to do more off the ball."
It was Tudor, I think. Was it?
Yeah, I think when you actually listen to the interview back, he's very complimentary of Cunha, but he states there is more he can do off the ball. Even in that game, but we're obviously very lucky to have him and whatnot. I'm okay with what he said, but you can see, Dave, how the comments were taken out of context completely.
Yeah, of course, and I think I don't think he's been negative towards Cunha's work rate as such, because he does work, he does run back and does help, but sometimes defensively, there is like Strand Larson can get himself about and works quite hard defensively, but Cunha probably can do a little bit more as well. It's constructive, isn't it? He's not gone out there to completely slag Cunha off. It's constructive criticism.
You don't want someone who just runs around like a busy fool. He's still a fool. It's got to be done with, the game plan in mind. I think some fans have taken umbrage to it just because of he's got a goal and an assist. He seems to be involved in every single goal that we do score. Almost like why don't you focus the blame on somebody else? But yeah, I don't know.
I think the weird thing for me with it, the one thing I don't get with it is he starts talking, and when you've seen the clip, it puts it into context a little bit, and it definitely does help. But it's when he says, we spent a lot of time this week, every week, and he goes into real detail about patterns of play and kind of all that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, you don't really hear many managers go into that much detail on a press conference, with no disrespect to a lot of the journalists in the room, but probably over a lot of their heads, as it would be over a lot of our heads. He's like trying to justify the decision to himself and to the room. And it's kind of like, it just didn't need to be raised.
Why he's done that though, isn't he? It's to make him look, I don't mean this is a dig, but it probably is, to make him look really, really clever, to make it look like to everyone that he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure, to a degree he's going to, they've got full, analytical team and stuff. But like you said, he's like, actually, I am doing this. I know what I'm talking about. I know. So I don't know. It reminds the Cunha sort of thing reminds me, proper random one, but Bakary Saka I thought was awful sometimes. Just like work rate and stuff. I'm going real throwback now, but then all of a sudden, he could flick a switch and win a football game for you, which out of nothing. I think Cunha's got a lot more to his game than that, but sometimes it is that. I think sometimes if it doesn't click for Cunha, sometimes it doesn't click for Wolves. So we are quite reliable on him at the moment. I think Gary probably knows he's one of, if not the best footballer in our team, and he's obviously going to look after him and want to make him an even better player as well.
But there was a point that he literally said, the words out of his mouth to kind of sum up were, we worked a lot on it in training in the week, and there was a lot of it that he didn't do. And it's like, you don't need to say that. You're going to gain absolutely nothing.
Yeah. It's just winning the game.
Yeah.
To have a word with him in private, I think, personally.
It's just needless. And I don't know, obviously, Gary O'Neill knows Matheus Cunha personally, and he knows him a lot better. Maybe he's got to grips with what his motivation style is and all that kind of crap. But it just seems like it's just we've got a 2-week break. It's going to have no impact on him whatsoever. He's not going to be back in training. Probably have some time off now. The benefit to anybody other than Gary O'Neill by saying that is absolutely zero. But you're quite right. He's just trying to justify certain things that he's done to make
no
it
one would have
well,
picked it out either after the game. Imagine going on social media. If Gary didn't say that and someone said, Cunha scored, but I'm picking out this, and this that he did wrong. Everyone would have told you to shut up on social media after the game.
If you want to raise that point, as and when we've had a couple of shockers, and to be fair to Cunha, he has had some games where he's not really been in the game this season, as he did last season. He does from time to time. Then kind of makes a bit more sense. But he's created a goal in the first minute, and he's banged on him from 30 yards in the second half, and he's done. I tend to keep an eye on players, and if they look like they're not pulling their weight, then you do tend to observe it, don't you? But at no point have I watched Cunha and think he looks lazy. I think his body language sometimes can be frustration more than laziness. But I just don't think it's a thing. I think he's just created it out of nowhere, to be honest.
Do you think it could be that Mark Schwartz's comments are true, that Gary O'Neill is just a miserable bastard?
It's a bit of a bell end.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone saw those comments, but Mark Schwarzer, who would have played with him at Middlesbrough or Portsmouth? Schwarzer Portsmouth, then we went, was it? It said that he was just the most miserable, moaned about everything. So one of his teammates used to share a lift with him in the morning and said that he couldn't do it anymore because he was just moan after moan after moan.
Imagine rather getting the bus to work because the bloke giving you a lift. Is that boring?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think I said earlier as well. I don't know if it was Russell Martin. Basically, he admitted, because they played together at Norwich, I think. Basically, admitted that both of them used to moan all the time, just like
Well, Russell Martin's not stopped. Fair play to him. He's carried it on as well.
I don't think either of them have they really? No. They're both.
Well, I think there's a lot of similar. Without watching all of his pre-match press conferences and his attitude, he comes across as that sort of person that a little bit like Gary wants to look after number one in terms of when he talks about in interviews. In terms of play style, he's been very, very stubborn with that. He wants to be known for that. And it might work for him. He might get a better job elsewhere.
Well, he's seen Company going land one of the biggest jobs in the world. Yeah, off of relegation.
If you remember, there was a journalist, I think it was kind of the turn of the year, and he tweeted something, I can't remember who it was, and he said something about how he turned up 3 hours late for an interview or something.
The old borough press officer, I think it was.
That was it. He said he turned up 3 hours late for an interview. He didn't apologise, and he held it against him ever since. And I thought at the time, that's really petty. Then everything that's happened since then would just further confirm that definitely happened. That's the thing. Like it's just... Yeah. He's definitely a bit out there, and I think he's just a bit. I don't know. He's obviously an introverted character, I think, and I think he struggles in those forums a little bit. I do think there's definitely a struggle there.
Yeah, I agree. What's your opinion on the fist bumps to the South Bank at the end of the game? Do you think it was warranted after one win in 21? 2 wins in 21?
2 wins in 21. Yeah.
I turned away.
He was.
Dave was like,
I want to do the clap.
You cut that off.
He was facing the North Bank for a while. I thought he's just going to give us a little applause here in the centre circle and do one, isn't he? And then as he walked towards
like Steve
us,
Evans, like.
Yeah. Yeah, then I got it on camera, to be fair, and I put it on Instagram. 2 wins in 21. I wasn't aware of your game. And then the guy behind me was like, "Nah, you can't put that." He's like, "Dave, you can't put that." And then in the next breath, he was saying, "We need Moyes now. We still need." I was like, "Fucking hell!" Right, he's slagging me off for putting something negative about him on Instagram. And I can't believe he's even entertained it. I would have just been like, "Nah," and I just applauded him and walked off. Like, come on, there's a time and a place, but fair play.
Well, at least he came over because last game he didn't, did he? Yeah. Well, we're unbeaten now in what? 3?
3?
3, yeah.
Yeah, 3 games unbeaten. So, with that in mind, where are we on the, to coin a phrase from the Fancast, the gonometer? Where are we? I still think it papers over the cracks, personally. I would still like them to make a change, but I don't think they will now.
Nah. I think...
But then you run the risk of managers being taken, because Everton could make a change. West Ham could definitely make a change. Southampton could make a change.
Leicester.
Yeah. Leicester could make a change.
Yeah, no,
Someone a bit more
I think-
good looking.
Ultimately, I think after this run, you can't sack him at the moment. Well, you can,
Oh,
but I
you
think
can.
Yeah, you can.
no, I think they've obviously said you need to get a certain amount of points by the international break, and I think he's done that. I think if before Palace, there would have been a lot of people wanting 6 points, but if you said 4 points before Palace, then fair enough. I think if you actually look at some of the games recently, City, we did quite well, although we didn't offer a hell of a lot. The game plan work to some degree. Brighton away, you would have taken a point out, I think. So I think the next big test, and it's frustrating because this is the perfect time. If you're going to change managers, you've got that 2-week window. I think the next big test now is if you can take points off the likes of Fulham and Bournemouth, which I think off the top of my head are our next two.
No, it's West Ham, isn't it?
Is it? I don't
Pretty
know,
sure. And I thought we had West Ham.
I'll have a quick look. But I think definitely it's
Fulham and Bournemouth. West Ham's the night.
Fulham, Bournemouth, and then Everton, West Ham. But there's a lot of there's 3 away games in that next 4. But if you could come out of that with 6 points, maybe I think you're looking at a decent position. And we've got the quality that we can be competing with these teams. And like I said, up until the new year, Manchester United, Spurs, and obviously there are teams like Fulham and Bournemouth that are doing quite well. But there's a few games there, especially at home against Ipswich mid-December. They're games that, in an ideal world, you want to be getting points out of. So fair play. It's a good time, although it's not all rosy at the moment. It's a good time to be getting a bit of momentum and a little bit more structure and consistency in the team, to be honest.
I personally would still look at making a change. I think it's going to take this next run of 6 games for me to be convinced that he's actually the man for the job. Personally, I don't think like a win against Fulham makes me convinced he is.
It's a hard decision because obviously the start of the season was tough. No one's denying that. But saying that, you get to December and you're still bottom of the league or bottom 2. Everyone's like, why didn't you make a change? Ultimately, it's so rare. 3 unbeaten, you've just won a game. It's so rare for the board to sack a manager after that.
I think part of it comes down to what the expectations are. Like, if the expectation is to finish 10th, then he'd need to go. But I think if, and I don't want this to be clipped up in May, but I'm fairly confident even if we keep him, we still finish relatively clear of relegation. Now, that's not me being overly confident. I just think we really shouldn't be finishing any lower than 15th with this squad. But I think at the same time, I don't think they're going to get rid of him. So it's a bit of a moot point, really. I think we could have lost both of those games, and I think he'd still be there, if I'm honest. But I think what the sensible thing to do would be, we've said about Moyes, I think Moyes would be a good option. I'm not sure he's a massive improvement. So do you just keep him until a better option becomes available? I don't know.
I think it'd be a big upgrade, if I'm totally honest. Just on his experience and what he has done.
Yeah, I think he's an upgrade. I'm just not sure. He's not the glamour appointment that most people would want, but I think it'd be a good one.
People say they want like a project manager, but when you're a team like Wolves, that don't happen, because if you have 2 good seasons, you're probably going to get picked off. And what's an average tenure of a manager now? 9 months, maybe 10 months.
I'd say months tops.
Yeah, it's very small. So
the only
reservation live in the moment and try and have a go.
The reservation I've got really is that we've got our head above water come January. Fosun I'm not saying they would have got a war chest out anyway, but they're going to be a lot more cautious in regards to spending money on someone they're probably not 100% convinced with. So that's the issue that we've got coming into January. Really. Our best hope is keep hold of all of our players that are playing consistently, maybe grabbing a couple of loans just to help bolster it. But I think we've just got to make sure we're safe by the end of the season. And it looks harsh at the time when Bournemouth sacked Gary O'Neill and obviously brought in the guy that they've got now. I can't think of his name.
Areola.
Yeah, Areola. But Wolves could do a similar sort of thing depending on how the rest of the season goes.
Yeah, well, obviously the decision to put our season ticket price up is looking like a real good one, benchmarked against Villa. Just talking about that whole debacle. I don't know if you lads saw Manny's tweet about Jeff Shea. For those who know Manny, massive fundraiser. in Wolverhampton, there was a lot for Dementia UK. He had emailed Jeff Shee, as many fans did, about the season ticket prices, and I think Jeff Shee's reply, probably got more traction than others. A, because it was Manny and Manny's well known, but B, because the reply was just like so tone deaf. Didn't spell Wolves right and said, "Don't be sad, mate." So along the lines of that. Now, Manny does samosa Saturdays, where probably twice a year he has a samosa stand on the just body the subway for the South Bank. And this year, Wolves normally in touch, but hadn't been. Now, Manny had said that the reason why Wolves hadn't been in touch is because Jeff Shee was angry at him for leaking the emails. What do you lads think about it? Because for me, I think freedom of speech, yeah, but not freedom of consequence. Now, I think Jeff has got every single right in the world to say, look, we're not helping you. But because of what obviously the emails that have been leaked. But in the same breath, if you don't want your emails to be leaked, stop replying to fans over email. It's an absolute PR disaster. Plus, the content of the email is a disgrace. But if you're getting so angry over an email from you to Manny being leaked and to many other fans that were put on Twitter, if you're really angry about that and have made that very clear, I think we're in a much worse position than we anticipated, because he shouldn't even be coming into his thought process as a CEO of a football club.
No, I don't know. It's obviously I get on well with Manny.
So do I.
It's just the whole thing, like you said, Matt, in terms of the email and the fans and stuff, it was so daft. I think Jeff is probably quite glad that, to a degree, as we speak, it's calmed down a little bit, and obviously until this came up again. But it wasn't just emails to Manny. Some of it, like he was like, I can guarantee we're going to sign a striker this summer and stuff like that. You're just making a rod for your own back. And obviously it did happen, but there's other situations where that might not have come to fruition and you just look like an absolute donut.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was obviously he raised a lot of money for the foundation with the Samosa Saturday as well. I don't think the foundation were sharing it, which is interesting because the foundation almost classes itself as a separate entity to the club in general.
It's not though, is it really?
Yeah, I know, but
It's
still,
not.
that like they should share it and stuff like that. I think probably the telling point for Manny was that. I mean, he could correct me if he's wrong. He was at the gala dinner last year and didn't get an invite this year. So
I do think, right, that obviously Manny's been very vocal. He's kind of disgruntlement or unhappiness with Jeff Shee and the way things have been run at Wolves, as have I, as have many people. So I'm not surprised that the club have taken access away. Like, I don't think Manny's probably surprised at that either. And
it'll be the same with us, though.
Oh yeah, 100%. So I don't think Manny can be really. You can't have it both ways. Like, the club aren't going to be like, yeah, come over. Like, you've dragged our name through the mud, and you know, some would say rightly so, and still be kind of open arms. And yes, obviously the charity is the biggest. The fundraising is the biggest thing in this, but I think the club have almost got a different kind of a view on it, sadly. But yeah, I can't believe he's so wound up about it. He's made a rod for his own back. Personally, I don't know how you feel about it, Joe.
Well, obviously, I'm not in the kind of inner celebrity sanctum like you two are in when it comes to the Wolves fan base. But I think, in summary, anything that anyone at the club does to drive a gap between them and, whether it's them and a fan or them and a group of fans. Obviously, someone like Manny's got a lot of followers and supporters, and his kind of voice does carry weight in the fan base. Anything they do along those lines is a bad thing. And I don't think, in fairness, anything Manny has said, Manny's always comes across as a fairly kind of well-mannered, kind of conscientious type guy to me. I don't know him, but I've never seen him tweet anything that's particularly controversial. He just tweets his opinion, which, you know, could be said of a lot of people. There's certain people in our fan base who definitely don't do that, and you know, I find it really petty, and I'm not really on board with all that crap. I just think at the end of the day, especially with the amount of money that Manny indirectly or directly would have raised for the foundation in the past, I think it stinks a little bit, to be honest. But at the same time, I don't know the full detail. I suppose none of us do we? But it's the same with you guys. You know, you guys have got access and you've had access in the past to know that something, no matter how mild it is that you say, could potentially withdraw all of any access that you do have. It's just, it kind of speaks volumes, doesn't it? But it is what it is. I'm sure as and when we start picking results up and we start doing well again, they'll be back in touch with Manny like as quick as you could imagine.
Yeah. I mean, the access that we get isn't probably what Manny's had in previous years, as he's very, very, very limited. But I think we've been fairly fair in the criticism, and I think Manny has as well. I think he's been more than measured. It's not aggressive. It's not like personal. It's just what I think most of us think. But yeah, it's a shame it's ended up that way. And like you said, Joe, it's just another example of the club driving a bigger wedge between fans.
To be fair, Dave was man marking Matt Hobbs at the tournament, so his access was pretty good, I think.
Oh, he's Daddy Hobbs, stepdad.
No comment.
I'm not a stepdad. I'm the
one first.
Yeah. I'm not a stepdad. I'm the dad that stepped up. I'm actually going to have to shoot off, lads. We've had a load of technical difficulties with the podcast, and my days are overrunning. So I don't know if I want to leave you two to it, or if you want to carry on for 10, 15 minutes. I'll let you wrap it up. But yeah, I'm going to leave. So enjoy your week, enjoy the international break, and I'll see you all later.
See you, mate.
See you, mate. Yeah, I mean, we can round it up, Joe. We had a few questions. Yeah. As you can probably tell, Jord has been held up at work as well, so Jord won't be joining us today. But yeah, we've had a few questions on the Twitter. Musings from Molyneux Gully. As if by magic, a Wall store returns to the stadium and we win a game. Was it all down to Mr. Miami?
Yeah, no, that's right.
I hadn't seen his name for ages. All of a sudden, I went on Instagram, I went on Twitter. His face was popping up everywhere.
He sat at the back of Steve Ball, wasn't
he? Yeah. All jokes aside, though, Joe, Ruben Neves back in his probably $8,000 Louis Vuitton tracksuit. You can't complain. That Saudi money coming in. But that was nice to. I was half expecting him to do a Delia Smith at half time, to be honest.
To be fair, there was a degree of that. Did you stay down at your seat to see?
Yeah.
We didn't get for a point, which is very, very rare. We didn't get for a point just because I know he was coming back out. And I genuinely, without sounding really like Ponty about it, he was really quite inspiring, I thought, in what he was saying and the emotion that was quite visible. You know, you could tell it was an emotional thing for him to be back, and he kind of was happy to show that and demonstrate that to the fans. And I do think a bit of the energy that was there for the second half definitely came from that, just because I think the positivity around it was just the amount of shit we've had to say the last 6-9 months. You know, it was just nice to see something that was relatively positive, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the I don't know, I wasn't expecting him to say it right yet. She said, do you have a message for the fans? Or something like that, and I thought he was going to say, "Yeah, let's get Gary O'Neill out," but it wasn't. Unfortunately, it wasn't the case.
No.
But that was not. I think he could. He was there, sat in the Billy Wright, the box on the far left. If you're looking towards the stand, and I think he could have sort of felt how tense it was in that first half, and people getting up, a bit frustrated. So no, it was. He was like, let's back the guys in the second half. Let's make sure we get the win, and it worked. I felt like it just eased a bit of pressure. It's like, right, Ruben said that. Let's do what he says now.
Yeah,
so,
it was good, mate. It was nice to see, and hopefully he'll come back in a couple of weeks' time and just do it for every home game now. He's injured for a while, and he needs to keep coming back, doesn't he?
Yeah, they've got Mateus Nunes coming back next week as well.
Happy
to
days.
give a
as long as Mr. Miami
out.
keeps coming, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah, exactly. Amar's music show. Do you think Gary O'Neill has been hindered by us signing Andre? My guess is that he was signed by the club without the manager really wanted him, perhaps because I had a great opportunity to get him in for relatively cheap. I'm sure Gary O'Neill would have preferred a player in another position, and I think that's been discussed quite often, especially when the signing happened. Maybe not a luxury signing, but maybe a substitute for actually signing a centre-back to add that little bit more defensive stability. And he showed quality signs during the first few games, and then after that City game, he's not really had a look in.
I think the changing system has probably contributed to that. I've seen a few bits over the weekend. I don't think Amar's wrong, by the way, but I think seen a few tweets over the weekend along the lines of like how bad our window was in the summer on the back of how many minutes the likes of Forbes and Rodrigo Gomez have had. But it's November, it's the middle of November. That's just generally how it goes. Let's get deep into January, February, and we'll see how deep the squad really is. We've been lucky to a degree, if you take Mascara out of the picture, with injuries relative to what we've had. So we will have players dropping out. Rodrigo Gomez, I thought when he came on Saturday, was like a blue arse fly. He was brilliant everywhere, all over the place. Genuinely loved that little cameo because you could just see the passion was burning out of him to get on the pitch and do something. And to be fair, he was good when he came on. I think Andre did the club sign him with the investment as the first thing in their mind, probably because he's been hounded by Premier League clubs for 2 years at least. I would say 25 million is a good deal. They'll sell him for more than that, whether he plays significantly or not, because he's that good. I think he'll have a big part to play in the second half of the season. It all depends on what the setup is. I think with this hybrid 4-5 with Totti in the side, that's probably what's keeping Andre out of the team. But that being said, Joe Gomez and Mario Lemina aren't going to stay fit all season. There's just no way. So I think I've blown smoke up Andre's arse for the last 3 months. I think it's a great sign, and I think he'll prove to be.
Yeah, I think the form of João Gomez and Lemina second half last week, I thought he was okay on Saturday as well. I think João Gomez has really stepped up over the last couple of weeks as well. But like you said, the fixture list round Christmas always gets a bit hectic. You're going to get suspensions build up over that time as well. So you will get opportunities, but he's still a young guy. Played, travelling a lot at the moment to and from Brazil for internationals. He's gone away again this week. And obviously stepping in, it took João Gomez a while, it took him 6 months. He got the odd chance under Lopetegui, and they really kicked on after a full pre-season. So I think we're just going to have to be patient a little bit with certain players. Rodrigo Gomez, I think, included as well. Just got to take those opportunities when they get that chance in the team as well. But I think a lot of the signings, someone brought it up. Forbes is obviously an interesting one. Again, didn't come on, did he, on Saturday? But I think a lot of the signings are good players, and it's just time. Pedro Lima is one that I think he was never guaranteed that he was going to be playing ahead of Semedo, for argument's sake, this season. I know he's got a little knock now. I felt for him a little bit because I think he had, in his head, he wanted to be in the Brazil squad for the 2026 World Cup. It's tight. Yeah. Unless he can break in next season and be very, very good, I think it's tight for him to do that. But
yeah, I agree. I think Pedro Lima was never really going to be, regardless of what came in his head, I don't think he was ever going to be knocking on the door of playing fullback either side this year. And I think, to be fair to Doc and to Aït-Nouri and to Semedo across both, because Lima could potentially play on both sides, there's not really a road in for him at the moment. But yeah, I really think Rodrigo Gomez did himself no harm whatsoever on Saturday when he came on. He looked brilliant.
Yeah, I am intrigued by Doc as well, by the way. I keep seeing it every international break because he's not been in the last 2 Republic of Ireland squads, I think, which was a real shock at the time because they're trying to go, I think they've got like a Scandinavian guy in charge at the moment. He's trying to go in a slightly different direction, but be interesting if he does want to break back into that Ireland squad, whether he maybe moves club in January, I don't know, but he's probably got a number of caps under his belt, so he's probably not the end of the world for him.
We still need another fullback, don't we? That can come in. I don't know when Semedo's contract runs out, but it's not
end of the season.
It's not got long to go, and that doesn't look like they're coming out and saying anything about that at the minute. So I can't see him going on a free at the end of the season. But I could see maybe what's happened in the past where he'll sign an extension on the agreement that they'll get a fee for him potentially. We've seen that quite a bit, haven't we? Podence was a good example. There was a view to get a significant fee for him. Didn't really happen, but. I still think we need a more defensively minded left back. I love Aït-Nouri to bits, but I think there's certain games where neither Totti nor Aït-Nouri really fit in. We need a kind of bona fide left back. I'm a big fan of Leif Davis. Actually, I've been watching him a lot for Ipswich. He's a really good player. He can get up and he can get down. He's not a brilliant defender, but he's playing in a flat 4 and he's solid enough. So. I'd be interested to see what we do in January in terms of fullbacks.
Final question from TW, not Talking Walls, but account on Twitter. Any advice on how to entertain ourselves during another godforsaken international break? I'm Irish, so watching the football is off the table. I'd say the darts. The darts is in Wolverhampton at the moment, and catch it on Sky, man. I've been watching the first few, and I tried to book tickets for next week last night. For some reason, it kept crashing. So as soon as this podcast is finished, I'm going to try and grab some tickets to that. Joe, you got any advice?
Darts is a shout, obviously. I've got into NFL actually the last 12, 18 months. I know George's a big Vikings fan, isn't he? To be fair, Molyneux sleep out on Friday, which I think people can still get involved in that. I know if TW's in Ireland, he's probably going to struggle, but he maybe just needs to go sleep in the back garden overnight on Friday, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just take the peace and quiet of knowing that we're not going to get beat at the weekend.
Yeah, it's gonna be a nice little break. It's almost a shame it's come at this time after a win, but I suppose nice break. Work on other things now and hopefully push on after the international break. But Joe, I think that is all for the pod. Bit of a apologies for people listening. We're sort of here, there, and everywhere, and Matt come and go on, and obviously George didn't join us in the end. But appreciate you listening nonetheless, and hopefully there were some good points in there to get your brain ticking over the international break. Joe, thanks for joining us. Where can people find you as well if they wish?
At Concept Skating on Twitter, mate.
Perfect, no problem. I'm at Dave as a Party everywhere, and we are at Talking Walls everywhere as well. If you're listening on YouTube, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as we're closing in on 18,000 subscribers. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, be sure to leave us a 5-star rating. We'll be back after the international break. Hopefully it's another 3 points against Fulham. And until next time, up the walls.